Saint Agatha of Sicily is one of the most venerated virgin martyrs of the early Christian Church. Her feast day is celebrated on February 5th, and she's honored as a patron saint of breast cancer patients, bell founders, bakers, earthquakes, fires, nurses, and rape victims. She's among the few female saints mentioned in the Roman canon or the Eucharist prayer font of the Catholic Mass. Her life is largely pieced together from hagiographical accounts, particularly the Acta Sanctorum. While some details may have been embellished over time, her story remains a powerful testament to the faith and perseverance in face of persecution. Agatha was born in either Cantanoia or Palermo in Sicily around the year 231 AD during the reign of Emperor Alexander Severus, who reigned from 222 to 235 AD. She came from a noble and wealthy family, and according to tradition, she was known for her great beauty, intelligence, and devotion to God from an early age. From a young age, Agatha dedicated herself to a life of chastity and faith. She took a vow of virginity, choosing to devote her life entirely to God. This made her a large target of persecution, particularly as Christianity was still a minority religion facing hostility under the Roman Empire. During the reign of Emperor Dionysius, from 249 AD to 251 AD, Christians faced severe persecutions. Agatha, due to her noble background, caught the eye of Quintinius, the Roman governor of Sicily. He was a powerful and influential man who desired Agatha not only for her beauty, but also for her wealth. He sought to force her into marriage, assuming she would relent under pressure. Agatha resisted Quintinius's advances, declaring that she belonged, to only Jesus. Enraged by her rejection and her unwavering faith, Quintianus had her arrested and brought to trial for her Christian beliefs. Before sentencing her to death, Quintinius sought to break Agatha's will. He sent her to a brothel run by a woman named Aphrodisias, hoping to expose her to vice and hoping that exposure to vice and immorality would weaken her faith. Agatha, however, remained steadfast, refusing to partake in any sinful activities. After failing to corrupt her, Quintianus ordered Agatha to be tortured mercilessly. Some of the recorded tortures included whipping and beating, where she was severely flogged, also burning with torches. Her body was burned with red hot irons, for example, and also mutilations of her breasts. Perhaps one of the most famous aspects of Agatha's martyrdom is that her breasts were cut off as a form of torture. The act later made her the patron saint of breast cancer patients and nurses. According to legend, after her breasts were mutilated, she was thrown into a prison cell. That night, Saint Peter appeared to her in a vision, miraculously healing her wounds. The guards who witnessed this were astonished, but Quintianus remained unmoved. Quintianus then ordered Agatha to be rolled over hot coals and sharp shards. Despite the immense pain, she continued to pray. Eventually, she succumbed to her injuries and passed away around the 5th of February 251 AD, reportedly saying, "Lord, my Creator, you have always protected me from the cradle. You have taken me from the love of the world and given me patience to suffer. Receive my soul now in hope of my reward. Shortly after her passing, Mount Etna erupted, threatening to destroy Catania. The people of the city prayed to Agatha for her intercession, and the lava miraculously stopped at the city's gates. This event solidified her patronage as against volcanic eruptions and fires. Saint Agatha is the patron saint of Sicily as well, and her intercession is sought for various causes, including breast cancer patients, firefighters, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions, as well as bakers. Her feast day, February 5th, is one of the most important celebrations in Catania, Sicily. The Feast of St. Agatha is a grand event featuring processions, prayers, and rituals. Relics of her veil are also carried through the city as a symbol of protection. St. Agatha remains one of Christianity's most revered early martyrs. Her story of courage, chastity, and faith continues to inspire believers worldwide. Her name is invoked in prayers for protection, healing, and strength in the face of suffering. Her unwavering devotion to God, even in the midst of unimaginable torture, has made her a symbol of resilience and divine grace, ensuring that her memory lives on for centuries to come. Saint Agatha's iconography is rich with symbolic elements that reflect her martyrdom, virtues, and posthumous veneration. Her depictions span various artistic traditions, from early Christian mosaics to Baroque paintings and contemporary devotional art. Each element of her imagery serves to communicate aspects of her life story, theological significance, and cultural importance. Saint Agatha is traditionally represented with specific symbols that distinguish her from other virgin martyrs. These attributes are not mere decorative elements but carry a profound spiritual and historical meanings. Agatha is often shown holding a silver or gold platter bearing her severed breasts, which are depicted either anatomically accurate or stylized to resemble small rounded loaves of bread. This represents the brutal torture she endured where her breasts were cut off. It also signifies her role as the patron saint of breast cancer patients and women suffering from related illnesses. In early Christian art, this depiction was more subdued, but during the Renaissance and Baroque periods, artists emphasized this element to highlight her suffering and miraculous endurance. A palm is also frequently held in one of her hands or placed beside her. The palm is a universal Christian symbol of victory over death and martyrdom, representing her triumph through faith. In some Byzantine icons, the palm appears more stylized with intricate patterns, while Western depictions show it in a more naturalistic branch. Agatha is sometimes shown also wearing or holding a white veil, or in certain depictions, a red cloth. The veil is linked to the miracle of her intercession during the eruption of Mount Etna, where her veil was carried to processions to stop the lava flow. It also symbolizes virginity and purity. In Sicilian festivals and feast days, replicas of her veil are displayed as relics emphasizing her protective role. Agatha's clothing also appears in iconography and conveys her status, purity, and spiritual role. Her attire shifts across different artistic traditions, reflecting theological emphasis and cultural context. In early Christian mosaics and icons, she wears a simple tunic or chiton with a mantle or himation draped over her shoulders, reflecting the style of Roman noblewomen. This attire denotes her noble birth and dignity, while the simplicity underscores her aesthetic lifestyle. It is often white or light blue, representing purity, with accents of gold indicating holiness. During the Gothic and Renaissance period, Agatha is portrayed with elaborate robes, with rich embroidery, sometimes adorned with jewels. This style emphasizes her spiritual royalty as a bride of Christ and the glory of her martyrdom in heaven. Even in these richly adorned images, her wounds or the platter of severed breasts serve as a stark reminders of her earthly suffering. Artists often use Agatha's gestures and body language to convey her virtues and the nature of her martyrdom. In catacomb frescoes and early icons, Agatha is depicted in an orant position, standing with arms outstretched in prayer. This gesture signifies her intercessory role, eternal prayer, and connection to the divine. It also reflects her submission to the God's will and even during torture. Agatha is also sometimes shown presenting the platter of her severed breast with an open, serene expression. This pose transforms their suffering into an offering to God, highlighting the Christian belief in redemptive suffering. Her calm demeanor contrasts with the brutality of the symbol, emphasizing her spiritual triumph. She's also shown with the martyr's gaze. Her eyes are often directed upward, symbolizing her focus on the heavenly realm. In some depictions, she looks directly at the viewer, inviting reflection on faith and courage. In Baroque artists, I should say, like Sebastiano del Piombo, emphasized this gaze to evoke an emotional response, drawing the viewer into her spiritual experience. Agatha is often depicted along saints, angels, or objects that amplify her narrative. In scenes illustrating her imprisonment, an angel or Saint Peter appears, often healing her wounds. This emphasizes the miraculous intervention during her torture and underscores her divine favor. The angel is often portrayed with glowing light, contrasting with the dark prison setting, symbolizing the presence of divine hope amidst suffering. Objects like tongs, iron pincers, or burning coals appear in the background or are held in secondary figures. This, these represent the method of tortures, serving as a reminder of her physical and spiritual endurance. In medieval manuscripts, illuminations, these tools are rendered in detailed miniature form, while Baroque paintings depict them with dramatic realism. The setting and background in Agatha's iconography often provides additional layers of meaning. In Sicilian art, Mount Etna is sometimes visible in the background, while lava flows halted miraculously at the city's gate. This connects, of course, to Agatha's role as protector against natural disasters, especially volcanic eruptions. In processional banners used during her feast day in Catania, This imagery reinforces her patronage of the region. Scenes of her imprisonment often show her chained to a pillar or confined to a dark cell. The pillar represents both her suffering and steadfastness, an unwielding support in the face of oppression. The darkness of the cell contrasts with the light of divine presence, often depicted through halos or angelic figures. In Byzantine icons, the style is often flat, two-dimensional figures with gold backgrounds. Agatha's face is serene with large almond-shaped eyes, symbolizing spiritual insight. The emphasis is on her eternal, incorruptible nature rather than her physical details of her martyrdom. In Gothic and medieval European art, she's shown with more elongated figures, detailed garments, and symbolic use of color. Agatha often appears in elaborate altarpieces with scenes from her life depicted in surrounding panels. The greater attention here is to the narrative storytelling, illustrating her key events like her trial, torture, and miracles. In Renaissance and Baroque art, it tends to be more realistic in the anatomy and also includes more dramatic lighting like chiaroscuro and emotional expressions. Artists like Cariviago, Zurbaran portrayed her suffering with intense realism, emphasizing the human experience of martyrdom. The focus here is more on the exploration of physical suffering juxtaposed with inner peace, inviting viewers to emphasize with her pain and admire her resilience. There are, of course, a variety of colors that are used across the iconography. White tends to be used to symbolize purity, virginity, and spiritual innocence, while as red symbolizes martyrdom, sacrifice, and divine love. Gold is used to represent holiness, divine light, and eternal glory, while as blue represents the heavenly grace, faith, and truth. The interplay of these colors in our iconography communicates theological messages beyond the literal narrative of her life. St. Agatha's iconography is a visual theology rich with layers of meaning that transcend time and culture. From the subtle elegance of Byzantine icons to the dramatic realism of Baroque masterpieces, her depictions invite reflection on themes of faith, suffering, resilience, and divine grace. Her images serves not only as an artistic subject, but also as a sacred symbol of hope and intercession for countless believers throughout history. Saint Agatha of Sicily is not only remembered for her steadfast faith and martyrdom, but also for the numerous miracles attributed to her intercession both during her lifetime and after her passing. These miracles span physical healings, protection from natural disasters, and spiritual interventions, establishing her as a powerful figure in Christian hagiography. Her miracles reflect her enduring role as protector and intercessor, particularly in Sicily, where her devotion for her remains deeply rooted. The healing by Saint Peter. After enduring brutal torture, including the mutilation of her breasts, Agatha was thrown into a dark, filthy prison cell without medical care, her body battered and bleeding. According to a hagiographic account, one night as Agatha lay in agony, Saint Peter the Apostle appeared to her in a vision, accompanied by a radiant light. He was dressed in apostolic robes and surrounded by an angelic presence. Saint Peter gently touched her wounds, and her mutilated body was miraculously healed, leaving no traces of her injuries. This miracle highlighted her divine favor and the sanctity of her virginity. Despite the miraculous healing, Agatha's persecutors remained unmoved, leading to further tortures. The event also emphasized the belief in saintly intercession, where even in suffering, the faithful are never abandoned by God. Agatha's most renowned posthumous miracles involve her protection of Sicily from natural catastrophes, particularly volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, reflecting her role as patroness as against natural disasters. The miracle of Mount Etna in 252 AD. A year after Agatha's martyrdom, Mount Etna, the towering volcano near Catania, erupted violently. Lava flows advanced toward the city, threatening to destroy it. In desperation, the people of Catania took a relic of St. Agatha's veil, preserved from her burial, and proceeded toward the flowing lava. They prayed fervently for her intercession. Miraculously, the lava stopped at the city's gates, sparing Catania from destruction. This event solidified Agatha's status as protector of Catania. Her veil became a cherished relic, paraded annually during her feast day celebrations. This miracle also established the tradition of evoking her during volcanic eruptions, not just in Sicily, but in other regions prone to such disasters. The earthquake of 1169. In 1169, a devastating earthquake struck Catania, causing widespread destruction and loss of life. The people of the city once again sought Agatha's protection. Survivors claimed that they invoked her name and the tremors ceased suddenly, and many were saved from collapsing buildings, and in some accounts describe a vision of Agatha appearing above the city, her arms outstretched as if holding back forces of destruction. This event reinforced the role of her as a patron saint against earthquakes, and it inspired the expansion of her feast day processions to include prayers for protection from all natural calamities. The eruption of Mount Etna in 1886. Another significant eruption of Mount Etna in 1886 once again threatened Catania. The miracle was that as in earlier times, the faithful carried Agatha's relics and proceeded toward the advancing lava, praying for her intercession. The lava flow inexplicably changed direction, sparing the city from devastation. This miracle reaffirmed the belief in Agatha's protective power even in modern times, deepening the devotion to her among Sicilian communities and beyond. St. Agatha's miracles are not limited to dramatic events, but also include personal healing and spiritual interventions experienced by individuals across generations. Given the nature of her torture, Agatha became the patron saint of women suffering from breast cancer or breast-related diseases, including infections and injuries. Countless testimonies from the Middle Ages to present day describe women being healed from breast tumors, abscesses, and other ailments after praying to St. Agatha or touching her relics. Pilgrimages to her shrine in Catania continue, where women seek her intercession for healing. And in some traditions, small cakes shaped like breasts, known as Minute di Sant'Agata, are prepared as offerings in gratitude for her protection. Because of Agatha's because Agatha was subject to torture by burning coal, she became associated with protection from fires. Numerous accounts detail how invoking her name has miraculously saved homes, churches, and even entire towns from being consumed by flames. In medieval Europe, firefighters often dedicated chapels to her and carried amulets bearing her image. In some regions, families place a blessed image of Saint Agatha above their hearth, believing it would safeguard their homes from accidental fires. Saint Agatha's intercession is also accredited with delivering individuals and communities from various forms of danger beyond natural disasters. During the Arab Norman conflicts in Sicily around the 9th century, a fleet of invaders threatened Catania. As the people prayed for Agatha's intercession, a sudden violent storm erupted over the sea, sinking many of the enemy ships and forcing the fleet to retreat. The storm reportedly ceased immediately after the threat was gone. This event elevated Agatha's status as a defender of cities and protector in times of war, leading to her invocation by soldiers and sailors facing peril. During a plague outbreak in the 15th century in Sicily, the citizens of Catalonia organized processions carrying Agatha's relics throughout the streets. Following the procession, the spread of the plague reportedly stopped abruptly, with many of the afflicted experiencing sudden recoveries. The miracle continued to be invoked during epidemics and pandemics, and special prayers for protection against diseases are still recited in her honor. Saint Agatha's relics, particularly her veil, bones, and personal belongings, have been associated with numerous miracles throughout history. The most famous relic of Saint Agatha is her red or white veil preserved in the Cathedral of Catania. Aside from stopping lava flows, the veil has been credited with healing the sick when placed over their bodies, protecting cities from storm when carried in processions, and remaining intact and uncorrupted despite centuries of exposure and handling, while which is considered miraculous in of itself. In some of Agatha's relics, including fragments of her bones, it is reported to have exhibited incorruptibility, a phenomenon often associated with saints with saintly remains. Pilgrims have described witnessing the relics emitting a fragrant aroma, often referred to as the odor of sanctity, and even appearing to radiate a soft glow during certain liturgical celebrations. Over the centuries, there have also been many reports of visions and apparitions of Saint Agatha appearing to the faithful in times of personal or communal crisis. A legend in the Middle Ages recounts a man falsely imprisoned for facing execution. In his despair, he prayed to Saint Agatha for deliverance. Agatha appeared to him in a dream, comforting him and assuring his release the next day. The charges were unexpectedly dropped and the man was freed. This story contributed to Agatha being invoked as a patroness of the falsely accused and prisoners. In the 20th century, during a minor volcanic eruption near Catania, several individuals claimed to see a luminous figure of a woman in white standing above the lava flow. believed to be Saint Agatha. The lava once again changed course, sparing the inhabited areas. The event has rekindled modern devotion to Agatha, inspiring renewed pilgrimages and prayers. The miracles attributed to Saint Agatha span physical healings, protection from disasters, deliverance from danger, and spiritual interventions, reinforcing her role as a powerful intercessor and beloved patroness. Whether halting the destructive forces of nature, curing illnesses, or appearing in visions to the faithful, her miraculous legacy continues to inspire devotion across the centuries and cultures. Saint Agatha of Sicily lived during the 3rd century, suffering martyrdom around 251 under the persecution of the Roman Emperor Decius. Due to the period in which she lived, her recognition as a saint did not follow the formalized canonization procedures established by the Catholic Church in later centuries. Instead, her sanctity was affirmed through a process known as pre-congregation congregation canonization, a system rooted in the early Christian community's veneration of martyrs. Pre-congregation canonization refers to the saints who were recognized before the formal establishment of the Congregation of the Causes of Saints by the Catholic Church in 1588 under Pope Sixtus V. These saints were venerated based on popular acclaim, local episcopal recognition, and universal acceptance within the early Christian community rather than through a formal papal decrees. In the first few centuries of Christianity, martyrdom was seen as the ultimate witness to faith. Those who died for Christ were automatically regarded as saints, as their sacrifice mirrored Christ's own passion. The process of recognizing saints during this period was organic and communal, arising from the collective memory of the faithful, oral traditions, written acts of the martyrs, also known as Acta Martyrium. After Agatha's martyrdom in Catania, Sicily, her grave became a pilgrimage site. Early Christians gathered annually at her tomb to commemorate her feast day, which is observed annually on February 5th. The rapid spread of her cult beyond Sicily indicates that her sanctity was recognized almost immediately. The community's devotion was based on eyewitness accounts of her courage during persecution and the miracles attributed to her intercession. By the 4th century, as Christianity gained legal status under Emperor Constantine, the veneration of martyrs became institutionalized within the Church. St. Agatha's name was included in local liturgical calendars and martyrologies, official lists of saints commemorated during Mass. Her feast day was observed with special prayers, readings, and processions, solidifying her status as a revered figure. One of the most significant acknowledgments of St. Agatha's sainthood was her inclusion in the Roman canon, the Eucharist Prayer 1, which dates back to the early centuries of the Church. The Roman canon is the oldest Eucharist prayer in the Catholic liturgy, traditionally used in the Mass. Saint Agatha is listed among the early virgin martyrs, including Saints Lucy, Agnes, Cecilia, and Anastasia. This inclusion serves as an implicit confirmation of her sainthood by the Universal Church, as only saints of the highest veneration were mentioned in the liturgy. Being named in the Roman canon reflected not only her popular devotion, but also theological recognition for her holiness. The Church viewed the Eucharist celebration as a communion with both the living and the saints in heaven, reinforcing Agatha's sanctified status. By the 6th century, devotion to St. Agatha had spread beyond Sicily to Rome, North Africa, and even Gaul, modern day France. Churches and altars were dedicated to her in her honor, and her name appeared in the Galatian and Gregorian sacramentaries, ancient liturgical books used by priests during Mass. Pilgrims traveled to Catania to venerate her relics, and her image began to appear in mosaics, frescoes, and icons, reinforcing her role as a saint throughout Christendom. Miracles attributed to Agatha's intercession, especially those involving protection against natural disasters like the eruption of Mount Etna, were documented by local clergy and pilgrims. The preservation of her relics and the incorruptibility of certain of these items associated with her life and were considered signs of her divine favor and further solidified her saintly status. By the 12th century, the Catholic Church began developing more formal procedures for recognizing saints, culminating into the establishment of the Congregation of the Causes of Saints in the late 16th century. However, St. Agatha's veneration had been universally accepted for centuries by this point, making formal canonization unnecessary. In the early medieval period, the bishop or of the diocese had the authority to recognize saints based on local devotion, miracles, and historical testimonies. Agatha's sainthood was confirmed through episcopal authority in Sicily and later acknowledged universally through her inclusion in the liturgy. Although no formal papal bull of canonization exists for Saint Agatha, her universal veneration and liturgical prominence effectively served as a form of implicit papal approval. Over time, various popes contributed to the growth of her cult by authorizing the dedication of churches in her honor and approving liturgical texts that commemorated her life and martyrdom. The celebration of St. Agatha's feast day on February 5th dates back to the early church, marking the anniversary of her martyrdom. The feast was included in the general Roman calendar, making it an official observance in Catholic Church worldwide. Her feast is categorized by solemn mass, procession, and devotions, especially in Sicily, where it remains one of the most important religious festivals. Special collections, hymns, and antiphons were composed in her honor, emphasizing her virtues of courage, chastity, and faithfulness. The presence of the martyrs in the Roman Missal, used during masses dedicated to martyrs, often highlights scenes reflecting of Agatha's life, such as her unwavering devotion despite persecution. Agatha's relics, particularly her veil and bone fragments, played a significant role in promoting her cult. These relics were associated with numerous miracles, attracting pilgrims from across Europe. In the Middle Ages, the presence of these relics was often seen as a tangible confirmation of saints' holiness, reinforcing the belief in Agatha's sanctity. The Cathedral of Catania houses Agatha's primary relics and has been a major pilgrimage destination since antiquity. Pilgrims Pilgrimages to her shrine serve not only as an act of devotion, but also as an acknowledgement of sainthood by generations of the faithful. Saint Agatha is also venerated in the Eastern Orthodox Church, where she is honored as a great martyr. Her feast day is celebrated in the Byzantine Rite, which with specific hymns and prayers dedicated to her, indicating widespread recognition for her sanctity across Christian traditions. Agatha is commemorated in the liturgical calendars of some Anglican and Lutheran communities, reflecting her universal appeal as a model of Christian virtue. The annual festival of St. Agatha in Catania is one of the largest religious events in the world, attracting millions of pilgrims. The festival includes elaborate processions, fireworks, and traditional rituals celebrating her enduring spiritual influence. Saint Agatha is a patron saint of Catania as well as a protector against volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, fires, and illnesses related to the breast. Her patronage continues to inspire devotion, particularly amongst those seeking protection from natural disasters and healing from diseases. St. Agatha's canonization was not the result of a formal legal process, but rather a testament to the early church's recognition of her sanctity through popular devotion, liturgical inclusion, and miraculous intercession. Her legacy as a martyr, protector, and intercessor has transcended time, making her one of the most venerated saints in Christian history.